Hello and welcome to Gibletish. This is Nephilim, and today I will be reading through the Coppermind Wiki about the Dawnshards. I just finished the Dawnshard book and I have so many questions. I knew I had to read through the wiki about them. So here we are. If you like my style of reading and want to hear more, make sure to like and subscribe, strike that oath bell with your sharp mouse, of course, so you can get notified whenever I do upload a new video. Alright, let's get on with the show. Dawnshard. This page is about the magical items. For the Rysn novella, see Dawnshard novella. The Dawnshards are commands Rysn, the will of a god. Nikolai Storm to Rysn. The Dawnshards are the 4 primal commands that Adonelsium used to create all things, which can supercharge the powers of anyone using an invested art, allowing for acts of magic that transcend what is normally possible, such as destroying an entire planet. They are the commands of immense power, and at least one has been secreted away to prevent unknown groups from ending the lives of billions. They have been heavily involved in the history of Roshar, but the knowledge of the true nature of the Dawnshards is very esoteric. They are considered to be unspecified mythological objects by most people by the time of the Era of Solitude on Roshar. Nature and mechanics. The most powerful forms of surge binding transcend traditional mortal understanding. All their greatest applications require intent and a command. Demands on a level no person could ever manage alone. To make such commands, one must have the reasoning, the breadth of understanding of a deity. Nikolai Storm. At their core, Dawnshards are nothing more than commands of enormous power, but on their own, they seem to be nearly useless. As all applications of investiture require a command and intent, these Dawnshards cannot be used without a person that has access to investiture trying to carry out some task. It is unclear what, if any, influence the specific command of each Dawnshard has on what may be accomplished using that command. In a person with no access to investiture or an inanimate object, the Dawnshard's most dangerous powers are rendered useless, and they are unable to truly present a threat to the lives of anyone. That being said, Dawnshards do confer a certain amount of investiture on the person that holds them. The investiture of each Dawnshard grants heightening-like abilities, allowing a person to see colors and hear sounds more vividly than before. This is an effect granted by large amounts of investiture, not because of any specific connection to endowment. In the same way savants are changed by power over time, the person that is a Dawnshard is also increasingly changed by its power. It is not certain if these changes depend on which Dawnshard is possessed. Mythology. Taking the Dawnshard, known to bind any creature voidish or mortal, he crawled up the steps crafted for heralds, 10 strides tall apiece, toward the grand temple above. From the poem of Estia. During the Era of Solitude, no one seemed to know what exactly the Dawnshards were or what they looked like. They have their root in mythology, where they were reputed to be valuable but extraordinarily dangerous. Talk about them was once common among those who recorded the early mythologies of Roshar, but they have since fallen out of common discussion. One of the only references to the Dawnshards was a poem of Estia, which referenced a Dawnshard said to be able to bind both voidish and mortal creatures. But what exactly that entails is unknown. Although Dawnshards are not the same thing as honor blades, they are often conflated in modern times by people unfamiliar with mythology. History. Early Cosmere. And so the Dawnshards, the 4 primal commands that created all things, and then eventually they were used to undo Adonelsium itself. Nikolai Storm. The Dawnshards seem to have come into existence with the Cosmere itself, as they were the commands that Adonelsium used to start all of creation. It is unknown whether they took the same form before the Shattering, but they were used as part of a weapon that split Adonelsium into 16 pieces, which would become the shards. It is uncertain whether the specific commands of Dawnshards have any bearing over the intents of the shards they created. At some point, Hoid became an unknown Dawnshard, which changed him permanently, although he stopped being a Dawnshard eventually. Humans of the Rysn system used the Dawnshards to destroy their former homeworld of Ashen before fleeing to Rysn for survival. It is uncertain how they managed to obtain the Dawnshards or who is responsible for this action, but they were utilized in conjunction with some type of surge binding to use powerful versions of ordinary surges. It is unknown which Dawnshards were present on Ashen or what happened to them following the fall of the planet. Rysn's Shadow Days. I wish I could do more. You might be able to get him to choose a champion. He is bound by some rules. All of us are. A champion could work well for you, but it is uncertain. And without the Dawnshards, well, I have done what I can. It is a terrible, terrible thing to leave you alone. Honor. At some unspecified point in the past, prior to the Recreants, the Dawnshard associated with the concept of change was brought through cultivation's perpendicularity in the Horneater peaks. Later, the Shard Honor raved to the Knights Radiant about the Dawnshards in the final days before his death. He claimed that they would one day destroy Rysn as their ancestors had destroyed Ashen with the Dawnshards, a contributing factor to the Radiants and their Spren abandoning their oaths in the Recreants. Honor also referred to them in the final vision he left for a future bondsmith, worried how mankind would survive without Dawnshards, which suggested that he felt they were now inaccessible. Honor seemed to believe that the Dawnshards were potentially crucial in defeating Odium. Amia. The path that changed Dawnshard traveled from the peaks is unknown, but it eventually came to be imbued within a mural depicting Adonalsium's Shattering, located in an undersea cavern beneath Achener. It wasn't seen as possible for this Dawnshard to leave the mural, for reasons unknown. The Dawnshard was protected by the ancient Lancerin, who were called Guardians of the Ancient Sins. They helped to defend the Dawnshard from unspecified shadowy groups who pursued the Dawnshard, wishing to use it as a weapon to destroy whole worlds. The Lancerin were able to successfully guard the Dawnshard until the scouring of Amia rendered the species nearly extinct. Following the scouring, the Sleepless took up this task, although it is not clear how it became their responsibility. As the Silver Kingdom had totally collapsed, the Sleepless thought it best if Achener was thoroughly protected and cut off from the world. They allowed the city and its Oathgate to be swallowed up by Krem, and constructed elaborate decoys in their place to hide the Oathgate. They may have also arranged for the soul casting of defensive spires all around the island. It is also possible that they had something to do with the storm that surrounded the island. All these deceptive measures failed to extinguish the interest of humans and other treasure seekers. Eventually, during the True Desolation, the Wandersail came out on an expedition led by Rysn along with her Larkin Chiri, descendant of the ancient Lancerin. During an attack from the Sleepless, Rysn and her companion Cord were led by Mandris into the mouth of the cavern containing the Dawnshard. Rysn was drawn to the mural, entranced by the beauty and the heat she could feel from the mural, as well as odd thoughts that were not her own. After accepting it, the Dawnshard entered Rysn and she became the new Dawnshard, despite the Sleepless's wishes. Rysn negotiated with the Sleepless, who wished to preserve life, and felt that Rysn had been led by Chiri to the Dawnshard. Ultimately, they allowed her to keep it, as it would be safe and inconspicuous inside the mind of a random mortal. Now, the Dawnshard Rysn is constantly watched and guarded by various Sleepless, as well as Chiri. And so the Sleepless take up the task, the Dawnshard. Known shards. Change. The will of a god to remake things, to demand they be better, the power to change. Rysn's thoughts on her Dawnshard. As with all Dawnshards, the Dawnshard that became Rysn defies description with mortal words. The command represents the will and knowledge of a deity demanding that something change, adapt, and become something new. This Dawnshard was long housed in a special mural of some sort before moving to Rysn. It seems to not merely be change, but some sort of positive change, and when it is absorbed by someone, they are in some way remade. It is unknown if this particular Dawnshard was involved with the destruction of Ashen, but it seems highly plausible. It is uncertain who has borne this Dawnshard over the course of its history, but it is impotent while being carried by Rysn. At some point in the past, the Dawnshard was also guarded by someone making use of a specific suit of shard plate. Court has taken up these shards and may one day serve as another guardian for Rysn. Other Dawnshards. There are 3 other Dawnshards in existence that are essentially unknown, but at least one of the 4 Dawnshards is different from the rest. It is unclear what this difference is though, and whether it refers to Rysn's Dawnshard or a separate Dawnshard. Hoid himself was once a Dawnshard at some point in the distant past, though it is unclear which of the 4 Dawnshards he held. It is uncertain when he became a Dawnshard, but his time holding it changed his spirit web in a similar manner to savantism. These changes meant that long-term Hoid found himself unable to inflict harm on any others, as well as unable to eat any sort of meat. His Dawnshard is in some way connected to the first gem, his eponymous topaz. And that is it for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did like it, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. I've been thinking about doing a full read of character bios, but I'm a little hesitant since if you've already read the book, then you know everything. But if you would still like for me to go through it, please do let me know in the comments down below. I would really appreciate your feedback. Alright, so until next time, catch you guys later. Bye!